you at my leisure.
Go ahead.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if anyone has done this yet, but I want to do it right now. I want to congratulate you on starting a whole brand new chapter of your lives. You're going on a great adventure. You're going to learn things you never thought you could do. You're going to go places you never imagined you'd go. And believe me, folks, I know, because I've been there. 22 years, 2 months, and 25 days in the Air Force. I just started out trying to stay out of Vietnam, but then I stayed in the Air Force for 22 years, so it's not a bad life. Don't have many Air Force folks here today. I see one. Way to go. Usually on Wednesdays, it's Army folks. And like I said, it's a great adventure. It was for me. I went all over the world. I even found a wife. I don't imagine you're probably going looking for that, wives or husbands, but you never know. But the reason I'm here today is not to talk about that. The reason I'm here today is to talk about the Red Cross and to introduce you to what the Red Cross can do for you while you're in the service. Have you heard that little advertising jingle on the TV and the radio, Like a Good Neighbor? It's that insurance company. I'd like to say the same thing, only I say like a good neighbor, the Red Cross is there. And I know that's a fact because they were there for me. And I'll tell you about that in a couple of minutes. So what do we do? And that's what I'm here to tell you. We are there to help provide communications in those times of crisis when you're going to need them. And these times will happen. And we're there 24/7, 3 a.m. in the morning, holidays, it doesn't matter. You can get in touch with us and we can help. So what kind of things are we talking about? We're talking about births, death in the family. You go on a deployment, you sit down in that plane, it starts taxiing down the runway, you reach in your pocket, and what do you pull out? The only set of car keys you got. The wife or the husband or whatever, sitting at home with a car with no keys. Or, there's a death in the family. You want to go to your first sergeant, tell him, I got to go home, emergency leave. Is he going to believe you? Is she going to believe you? Not necessarily. That's where the Red Cross comes in. The family gets in touch with the Red Cross gets in touch with your unit, and verifies the information for the unit. That way the unit knows that what you're telling them is true, and it smooths the way. There we go. As I said before, I can vouch for that. When I first went into the Air Force, as I mentioned before, I wound up in Vietnam, and that was at the time of the Big Tet Offensive. I wasn't being very good. I wasn't keeping in touch with my family. My family was going crazy, thinking I was laying in a rice paddy dead somewhere. So they got in touch with the Red Cross got in touch with my unit got in touch with the first sergeant got in touch with my rear end, and I got in touch with my family. But then 5 years later, when I was in the middle of West Texas, and my mother called me at midnight to tell me that my father just passed away, that was different. So I told her to get in touch with the Red Cross, and she did, and it made its way back through and got to my unit, and it smoothed the way for me. And that next day, I was on a plane on emergency leave going from West Texas down to Florida. It counted. So who do we contact in this role of honest intermediary? We talk to doctors, lawyers, hospitals, even county morgue people. It doesn't matter. Whoever needs to be gotten in touch with. Plus, from the other end, your family can get in touch with them as well and say, hey, these guys are going to be calling you. You have my permission to give out information. So what kind of information are we talking about? Information is crucial. We've got to be able to identify. We've got to be able to identify you. We've got to know what unit you're in. And I'm not just talking about street address. I'm I'm talking about a unit, military designation. We even need to know which service you're in. Obviously, you could wind up stationed on a base that isn't part of your parent military service. I had 2 tours in London on a Royal Air Force base. It was tough duty, but you know, somebody had to do it. There could be 2 or 3 different people with your name and your rank on that same base, but in different services. And if we don't know which service to get in touch with, we can lose precious time. Time that you wind up losing. We also need to know real names, not nicknames. If something happens and we need to get in touch with a hospital to find out how Bob Smith is doing, they could turn around and say, well, we don't have Bob Smith here. And why would they maybe say that? Something you're going to run up against a lot in the military, the Privacy Act. They can't just go giving out names. So we have to know that we're looking for a Robert Smith instead of a Bob Smith. Cell phone numbers, home phone numbers, work phone numbers, all sorts of information. Anything that could help get in touch with people is the kind of information you need. But that's not the only way the Red Cross can help you. The Red Cross can also help with financial assistance. Now, each of the services has their own assistance organization. The Air Force has the Air Force Aid Society. The Army has the Army Relief Agency. There's a Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, and the Navy and Marine Corps Relief Society. There is usually one of these representatives, depending on which base you're on that base. But they may not be available. You may not be able to get in touch with them. You may be able to get in touch with the Red Cross. Now, if you do need some kind of financial assistance and it can get approved, the Red Cross can even cut checks for you. This can be used for finances for going on emergency leave, paying for that airplane ticket. It can be used for groceries, mortgage payments even, if it means not losing a house. I can't say exactly what it is, but if you don't ask, you'll never know. If it comes to dire straits, remember, like a good neighbor. Now you're going to be asked to fill out a card. You may have already. Have you already?
Yes.
Has anyone not?
No.
Okay, we have cards up here, there's pens up here. Just fill them out. And this is the kind of information that we need. Now, we don't use this information for advertising. We don't sell it. It just gets sent to the chapter nearest to the contact that you list on here. And they send that contact more information so the contact knows what's going on. You take that card and you just leave it. There's a little stack here. These are all cards that have been filled out already. Just leave it on there. Somebody comes by once a week to pick these things up, and they're distributed. And it's information that's going to help you, maybe. See, we are not only asked by all branches of the military to do this, but we are charged by our charter with Congress to do this, to provide these kinds of services for the military. We have a saying, get to know us before you need us. And we really want to do that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We'd rather hear the same question 15 times than you not know the answer when you need to know the answer. So just remember, you're going to hear this a lot of times, this little briefing. You may get it at your unit when you get there. You may get it when you go PCSing to a different unit. That's what we call it, a permanent change of station in the Air Force. I don't know what the Army calls it. You hear it a lot, but it won't hurt. And maybe you won't forget it, and you'll know it when you need it. So just remember, like a good neighbor, Red Cross is there. Now, that's all I have to say, unless any of you folks have any questions. That concludes, as they say, this briefing. Okay? Well, carry on.